it's always fascinating, isn't it, when that sort of public image we have of someone famous, it just fades, and you get this glimpse into their real private lives.
Yeah.
And the final autopsy report for Gene Hackman, who passed at 95 alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Well, it revealed some really unexpected details that kind of underscore that point.
Absolutely. I mean, we all heard about their passing, of course, but digging into the actual official findings, it paints a much more complex picture, doesn't it, about their final days and, well, the circumstances in their Santa Fe home. So our aim here is really just to unpack the most significant, maybe the most revealing parts of those reports for you.
Right. We're looking at, well, everything from how they were found, the initial scene, all the way to the final medical conclusions. It's quite a lot to take in.
It is.
So we're here to sort of guide you through those key details, help make sense of what really stands out. Let's maybe start with the discovery itself. That was February 26th, 2025.
Okay. So it was two maintenance workers who actually found them at the house. Betsy Arakawa, she was 65. They found her in a bathroom. And near her was an open prescription pill bottle, some loose pills, too.
Okay.
And Gene Hackman, 95 years old, he was found in a different part of the house, the mudroom. His cane and sunglasses were nearby. And just a really sad detail, one of their dogs was also found deceased. It was in a closet.
Oh, wow. And the scene itself, it sounds like it raised some flags immediately, like the front door being slightly open.
Exactly. The door was ajar. And even though, there weren't obvious signs of a break-in, no clear trauma on the bodies, the authorities felt it was, I think the term they used was suspicious enough for a full investigation.
Suspicious enough, right. That makes sense, just to be sure.
You have to be thorough. And then a further examination showed they'd both been deceased for quite some time. There were signs of partial decomposition. And for Betsy Arakawa specifically, they noted some mummification starting on her extremities, which happens sometimes with dehydration after death and certain, environmental conditions.
Right, indicating time had passed. And do we know when someone last actually saw or spoke to them?
Yeah, the reports mention that the last known contact anyone, like a worker, had with them was about 2 weeks before they were discovered.
2 weeks. Okay. So that leads us into the timeline of when they actually passed away, because this is where it starts to get distinct for each of them.
Very distinct. Gene Hackman's pacemaker turned out to be, well, a key piece of evidence here.
The data from that.
Exactly. It last recorded any activity on February 17th, so that's seen as his likely final day.
February 17th, okay.
But Betsy Arakawa, based on the coroner's initial assessment, looking at the state of decomposition and also tracking her last known movements, the belief is she died significantly earlier, around February 11th.
February 11th. So that's what, a 6-day gap between them?
Roughly, yes. About 6 days between her passing and his. And then, their bodies weren't found until about 15 days after Betsy likely died.
15 days. Wow.
Yeah.
That really speaks to how private their lives had become, doesn't it?
It certainly seems that way, just, undiscovered for over 2 weeks.
Okay, so let's talk about the causes of death then, because you said they were distinct, and this really highlights that contrast.
It really does. For Betsy Arakawa, the cause was determined to be hantavirus pulmonary syndrome.
Hantavirus. Right, you get that from rodents.
Correct. It's a severe respiratory illness contracted through exposure to infected rodent urine, droppings, or saliva. The autopsy confirmed she tested positive for that specific virus.
Okay. And Gene Hackman, was he tested too?
He was, and importantly, he tested negative for hantavirus. His cause of death was listed quite differently: hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. You often see that abbreviated as ASCVD.
ASCVD. So heart-related.
Yes, essentially severe heart and blood vessel disease related to high blood pressure and plaque buildup. But the report also specifically noted advanced Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributing factor to his death.
Alzheimer's as a contributing factor. That's important.
Yeah.
And the autopsy, did it give more detail on his heart condition?
Oh, absolutely. It detailed a long and pretty complex history of heart problems, evidence of coronary artery stents,
Okay.
a bypass graft surgery, and he'd even had an aortic valve replacement previously. So it paints a picture of significant, long-standing cardiovascular disease that was being managed medically.
Yeah.
They also found evidence of remote myocardial infarctions, basically, signs of heart attacks he'd had in the past.
So very, very different health situations playing out. And wasn't there something else in his toxicology report? Something about fasting?
Yes, that was another key finding. Trace amounts of acetone were detected in his system.
Acetone. What does that indicate?
Well, it's a ketone body. Your body produces ketones like acetone when it starts breaking down fat for energy because it's not getting enough carbohydrates or food in general. It suggests prolonged fasting.
So he hadn't eaten for some time before his death.
That's the implication. And supporting that, the medical investigator also noted there was no food found in his stomach.
That's a really sobering detail, isn't it? Especially when you contrast it with what we know about Bessie's last known day. It suggests maybe very different circumstances leading up to their
It
deaths.
does. It points towards potentially different scenarios unfolding in those final days.
Let's talk about Betsy's last days then. You said February 11th was likely her last day of activity.
That's what the timeline suggests. On that day, February 11th, she seems to have had a relatively normal, active day. She emailed her massage therapist that morning.
Okay.
Then she went grocery shopping, stopped at a pharmacy, visited a pet store. Typical errands. Records show she was back home by around 5:15 p.m.
And the crucial part,
The crucial part is that there's no record of her sending or replying to any emails after that day. That seems to be the cutoff point for her communications.
and wasn't there something about a doctor's appointment the next day?
Yes, that's right. A local doctor's office confirmed they actually spoke with her on the phone on the morning of February 12th.
Also, she was alive on the 12th then.
Well, they spoke to her and made an appointment for her for that afternoon, but she never showed up for it.
Oh, okay.
And it's important to mention this appointment wasn't related to hantavirus symptoms or anything like that, as far as we know. The office tried calling her after she missed it, but got no answer.
So sometime between that morning call on the 12th and when she missed the appointment, something happened. It's quite striking, though, because friends described her as being in, I think the words were, perfect health.
Yeah, so fit was another description used. Friends seemed genuinely surprised. They also mentioned she was quite careful, even regularly wearing a mask.
Really?
Apparently, as a precaution to protect Gene Hackman from getting sick, given his age and likely health issues.
Wow. That just makes the hantavirus diagnosis even more sort of tragically unexpected. It can hit fast and hard.
It really can. It underscores the unpredictable nature of it.
So turning back to Gene Hackman then,
Right.
his condition, particularly with the Alzheimer's, seems key here.
Absolutely. The medical investigator described him as being in an advanced state of Alzheimer's disease.
Hmm.
And this is really significant because, well, in those later stages, awareness can be severely impacted.
You mean awareness of his surroundings?
Of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awareness of surroundings, of the passage of time, even recognizing people or understanding situations. It raises the possibility, and it's a very sad one, that he might not have even been aware that his wife had passed away in the same house.
Oh my goodness. That's hard to imagine. Just continuing on, potentially unaware.
It's a difficult thought. And friends seem to support this picture of declining health. They noted he'd become, quote, essentially kind of homebound.
Right. And that he was really slipping, especially in the months leading up to his death.
It really sounds like Betsy was his primary caregiver, maybe managing everything for him.
That definitely seems to be the implication from friends' accounts. One friend even went so far as to suggest that without her dedicated care, Jean might have died long ago.
That puts her sudden death into even sharper focus regarding his well-being.
It does, although it's fair to mention his family did report being in touch with him in the months before she died. And they mentioned he was known, at least previously, to practice things like yoga and Pilates.
Okay, so maybe still some level of activity earlier on, but definitely declining significantly towards the end.
That seems to be the picture, yes. A poignant contrast, his wife, outwardly healthy and active, but succumbing to a sudden infection, while he faced the long decline of Alzheimer's.
Such different paths converging in the same tragic outcome. Now, the investigation didn't just stop at cause of death, right? They looked into other possibilities, environmental factors.
They did. They specifically ruled out things like carbon monoxide poisoning or a significant fatal gas leak.
Okay.
Interestingly, they did find what they called a minuscule leak in a stove burner, but it was deemed far too small to have caused any harm.
So not related.
Not related to the deaths. They also noted some other minor code violations in the house, structural things, but again, nothing connected to gas or CO.
And what else did they find in the home? Items of interest.
Well, they collected the usual things you'd expect. Cell phones, medications. Lists included things like blood pressure meds, thyroid medication, Tylenol. Also medical records, and perhaps tellingly, a 2025 planner.
A planner. Maybe Betsy trying to keep things organized.
Possibly. It paints a picture of daily life or the attempt at it. And then, of course, there was the heartbreaking discovery of their dog, Zinna.
Right, you mentioned the dog was found deceased. Do we know what happened?
Yes, the report concluded the dog, which was found in a crate in the bathroom where Betsy was found, died from starvation and dehydration.
Oh, that's just awful.
Yeah.
It really reinforces how long they must have been undiscovered.
It really does. A terribly sad side note to the whole situation, indicating that period of isolation after Betsy passed and before Jean did, and then before discovery.
What about the family? Did they release any statements? And what about their life in Santa Fe generally? They were quite private, weren't they?
Yes, very private. The family did release a statement expressing their sadness, remembering Gene Hackman as a beloved father and grandfather, while also, acknowledging his incredible acting career.
Understandable.
He and Betsy had lived in Santa Fe since the late 1980s, deliberately seeking a quieter life away from Hollywood. And by all accounts, they found it.
Did friends describe him, despite his fame?
Friends described him as a really low-key individual, not seeking the limelight at all in his later years. Both he and Betsy were apparently quite involved in the local community, especially the arts scene for him. They were seen as deeply woven into the fabric of Santa Fe.
Low-key, woven into the fabric.
Yeah.
It sounds like they achieved that private life they sought.
It seems so, which makes the circumstances of their deaths, being undiscovered for so long, even more poignant, perhaps.
So as we sort of wrap our heads around all these details, we've got this simultaneous loss, but from completely different causes. Hantavirus for Betsy, heart disease compounded by Alzheimer's for Jean.
Exactly.
We have this timeline. She likely passed around February 11th, he followed around the 17th, and they weren't found until the 26th.
That timeline is stark. And the detail about the prolonged fasting for him, the lack of food.
Yeah, and the potential unawareness due to the advanced Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That he might not have known his wife, his caregiver, was gone. That thought just, it really lingers, doesn't it?
It's profoundly sad. It's this dual tragedy unfolding silently within the same home. Her sudden illness, his subsequent decline, possibly in isolation without that crucial support system he clearly relied on. It really hits home the fragility of life.
It does.
And it shows the complexities of aging, managing serious health conditions, often hidden away behind closed doors, even for people we think we know from their public lives.
Absolutely. It really does make you pause and think. When you consider all these details, their final days, the clear interdependence they had, even though it looked different for each of them, it prompts some bigger questions, doesn't it?
Like what?
Well, what does this deep dive really reveal to you and to you listening about just the sheer complexity of aging, the immense weight of caregiving, especially when one partner is facing something like advanced Alzheimer's, and how vulnerable even seemingly secure lives can be to sudden, unexpected health crises? It doesn't matter if you're a celebrated actor or anyone else. It's just a really stark reminder, I think, of how fragile life is and the very personal, often unseen journeys and challenges that people navigate, completely separate from any public persona they might have. Just something to reflect on.